I thought Microsoft turned off all those automatic updates because they were having problems like them launching like during critical missions for the government and all this stuff. Like they were.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
Regularly, honestly.
Yeah.
I think Bryce said he started it like an hour and a half ago.
Oh, really?
Or something. I mean,
Okay, everybody, it is 4 o'clock and 4 of us are here, so we can go ahead and get started. We've got 3 items on the, 3 items, excuse me, everybody. We have 3 items on the agenda this afternoon. The first one is a presentation of the June and July public transit report. We have Taylor here with city staff to go over that with us.
thank you, Chair and council members. So we didn't get to meet in July to go over the June numbers, so we do have the June numbers here as well as the July numbers. So first, I'm going to go through a few things on the memo, as always. Upcoming in the next month, on September 23rd, we'll come back to council at a study session to talk about Central Oklahoma Long Range Transit Plan. This is likely your last update on that before it goes through the final approval process to ACOG, who, similar to our other metro-wide transportation planning efforts, that will be the body that really adopts it. We may come back to council as a receipt of the report, but you'll get an update on that, and we're getting really close to having final drafts of things. On the grant side, we did want to let you guys know that we have accumulated some grant money to replace the last few vehicles that we have on our list that we inherited when we took over the operations and are due for replacement. So we're working through some staff reports to come to council to tie up some money so we can issue POs. But we have some funding for 3 big buses, as well as we have some funding for our paratransit unit that has reached its useful life. But that's actually one that we bought after we took over the service. So it's one that's aged out, our first aged out that we purchased. So there's some more information on those grants here in this memo, but really exciting that we'll be able to move forward with those purchases hopefully in the near future.
Is the lifespan on those vehicles less than 5 years?
If it's a smaller vehicle like a minivan, it's 4 years that you can replace it. You don't have to, but we start trying to identify funding for those because they do get used regularly, and there's a mileage requirement or a age life year requirement. So we hit the year requirement. And a large bus is 12 years typically that you have to keep them, and then agencies usually keep them 13 or 14 years, just due to funding, or they're still running fairly well. Let's see, did want to update council on our transit center bay parking lot improvement project. So they got started on that a couple of weeks ago, replacing the existing asphalt in the bays there at 320 East Comanche that we knew was going to come for replacement when we moved in, but we thought we could squeak a few years out of it, which we did. We got almost 2 years. We were hoping for a little bit more, but the contractor is moving, and the first week they had everything tore out and we're almost ready to pour, and then it started raining, of course. So now we're just waiting for everything to get less soggy so we can pour some concrete, and then they're starting on the east side, which is where they're at now. They'll move to the west side, and it's a pretty simple project, just tear out and put down. So we're hopeful that that'll go fairly quickly if the weather can cooperate. For ridership, the first report in your packet should be the June Embark Norman report. So that's for the whole fiscal year last year. We ended for both fixed route and paratransit at 504,898 passengers, which is a 25% increase over the 2024 fiscal year total of 403,229. So we're really excited that ridership continues to increase here in Norman. I think it shows that passengers are able to get around better with the new routes, but also perhaps additional passengers are finding the system usable and coming on board and utilizing the system.
So we almost have 2 years of data on the new route system, and in October we'll have for November's meeting, we'll have
Right.
2 full years of data
Mhm.
to compare to. But as you're mentioning, a 25.2% increase in total ridership this year compared to last year on public transit in Norman. So 25% increase is pretty impressive, I think. So still a lot of issues we know with fixed route system that we want to address, and expansion of service, of course, and hours. But people are riding the bus in Norman. I think there's no doubt about that.
On the fixed route went up 44%.
Yeah.
Even better than the 25%. So this is clearly across the board. It's pretty popular.
Yeah, I think it shows that for the funding that we have available, I think city council, city leadership have done a good job of prioritizing where those dollars go. With the Go Norman Transit Plan that we were able to do fairly quickly after we took over operations, and then we're able to implement those route changes with your all support. I think it shows that those were all good decisions, and some of the assumptions came to reality that we were hoping for. So, and then because we have 4 reports, there's a lot in there, but I want to hit the high points. So the next one in your packet should be the July Embark Norman report. So we're starting a new fiscal year with that one. And again, I feel like I keep telling the committee that year over year I expect to come back and the numbers have plateaued. But at least for July, we're showing a 25% increase from July 2024 for the fixed route and paratransit. We had just shy of 43,000 riders this July, and last July we had 34,000. So another good increase for a summer month when we typically have a little bit of a decrease because there aren't as many people in and around Norman. So I think hopefully it stays that way, but again, I think due to capacity restraints and just people in Norman riding the bus will probably hit a plateau at some point. It's just waiting to see, and hopefully we'll have a modest increase after that. That's somewhat normal, but it's great to see that we're continuing to go up. And then for Norman On Demand, those are the next 2 reports in your packet. For June, again, ending the fiscal year, we had nearly 45,000 rides for fiscal year 25. And then for the start of the fiscal year 26, we had almost 2,800 rides, which is a little bit less than last year's July, but that service is really it's close to being maxed out with the number of vehicles we have, so we expect it to be a little stagnant, for lack of better words. You just can't fit any more people on vehicles. That's all, and there are seats. So we'll see how it reacts as we move forward, but that is one of the services that, according to the numbers, we're facing some capacity issues, so we're monitoring it closely. Any questions on the regular ridership report or anything else in the memo?
The paratransit software transition, that part, which we discussed a few months ago too, and some of the issues. Is there an update on how that's working out since then?
Yeah, we continue to meet with passengers and Healthy Living staff members. We've done that 4 times now. Had a monthly meeting with them since May. According to the complaints and the amount that we're not getting, it seems that the initial corrective actions that we took based on input that we got are working. And I think that shows in the discussions that we've had with that group that there's less issues to talk about. There still are some things that we discuss at those meetings that we are looking into, including the next agenda item on your agenda today. So I think it's a good dialogue that we've been having the last 3 or 4 months, and it seems that things have gotten better as we work through some of the tweaks with the new software. But there are still things that the committee members at the A are giving us that we're taking back and evaluating and trying to see if we can do better on.
Okay.
I was going to say, I was at the All the other day because they're doing that fundraiser 6x6 on Canvas, and I saw paratransit out there, but all this discussion around kind of where the hospital is, reminds me of a constituent issue that was brought up. I guess this person is either a case manager or helps somebody who's on dialysis. And I guess where the bus drops them off and in the heat, because it was hot, they saw their client struggling to get to where the dialysis is done. And so there was the question if we could have bus stops closer to some of these services. I know there's one off Jones and Porter, if memory serves. Johnson and Porter.
Johnson and Porter.
Yeah.
For paratransit or fixed route?
I think it was fixed route. Paratransit would be something that person might be able to use.
Right.
Does dialysis or having diabetes like that qualify for paratransit?
It could. I might ask Marilyn Dillon to come up and help me answer that question. She'll be up here in a minute anyways, so.
So, just a couple questions. Was the person walking with a walker or with a wheelchair?
I would have to find out. I knew they were walking.
I
And
mean,
that
if they're
they,
struggling just to walk from the bus stop to the dialysis center, that's kind of an indication they might be eligible for paratransit services. So, we'll get with the people at the audit and see if we can identify who saw them. Do you know who you talked to? Or?
yeah, they hit me up through Facebook
Okay.
messages, so I'll go back to that. And
Yeah, if you can send it to us, we'll
Yeah.
Yeah,
get
because
that
we'll
going.
have the mobility navigator reach out and try to get a hold of the individual and help them fill out an application.
Okay.
But yeah, we, as we've had discussions about fixed route bus stops, we'll try to move or add bus stops as we can. But there are some limitations because of schedules and trying to keep the rest of the system running that we have to look at. So,
Well, I guess if it's going by the that might be helpful if it's in that general area.
right.
Or could Embark well be some? I don't know if that could take you to dialysis treatment or not, but
No, and we'll get into that in a minute. It's at least as designed right now in Oklahoma City, it's for more fitness, well-being
yeah,
programs, not
people over a
necessarily.
certain age, and I'm not really sure of the age of the other
Right.
person. So
Right.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council about the transit ridership? Thank you, Taylor. All right, the next item is the continued discussion on the Embark Well Mobility Management Program. We have representative from Embark and city staff here to
Yep.
talk about.
So Taylor Johnson's still here, still transit and parking manager, and then Dr. Marilyn Dillon with Embark Mobility Administrator. So we're unable to pull up the presentation, but you all have a copy or should have received one. If you want one, we have a few more over here. So we'll run through that. This is a continuation of the discussion we had 2 months ago, where we started talking more in depth about Embark Well, how it operates in Oklahoma City, and what it may look like in Norman. As we all know, there's segments of our population that need transportation services. I think that shows through our bus route ridership. I think it shows through the Norman On Demand ridership, and I think it could show through this program as well. It takes, I think, as you guys know, funding dollars to do all these things. So we're excited to continue the discussion. So the first few slides are just a rehash of what happens in Oklahoma City under current Embark Well program. So I'll let Marilyn take those real quick. We don't have to spend too much
So
time on them.
basically, our current Embark Well program is Monday through Friday. It's available from 7 to 7. It's no cost to the seniors. They have to be 60 and over. It is focused specifically on what's called the social determinants of health, wellness, exercise, social connections, healthy meals, nutrition, those types of activities and things like that, but just that community connection. One of the things that they found over the years with seniors is being socially isolated actually is a negative impact on their health, to the point where there's a 24% increase in heart disease and heart attacks, and up to a 50% increase in strokes for seniors that become socially isolated and lose that community connection and stuff. So we developed Embark Well to serve that need, because traditional non-emergency medical, to her point, for dialysis and stuff, it's a different type of trip. Many of the funding sources for your medical type services don't cover going to a cooking class to learn how to cook healthy food, or, going to a yoga class to help with your Parkinson's, or things like that. They don't cover that. So this is kind of designed to fill that gap in the services. We have a few requirements. It's a simple 10-minute intake on the phone to sign up. It's an honor system that you're 60 and over. We don't make them fax in their driver's license and things like that. Most of the people that use this are actually use our Older Americans Act services for seniors that we have in Oklahoma County as well. We serve all YMCA locations in the Oklahoma City area, all the MAPS, 3 senior health and wellness centers that we've built through the MAPS program in Oklahoma City. And then we have a few city parks that have some programming that's specific to seniors, and so those are authorized locations as well. And really the only caveat is that we ask the senior to go to the wellness location that's closest to their house, because Oklahoma City is so large, the trip costs would get very large if they were going across town to exercise. So that's how the program kind of works right now. As you can see from the slide with the ridership and the graphs on it, we started this in 2019 and did about 734 trips the first year as we were piloting it out. Back then, the budget was very small, it was $30,000. We got a little grant and we were able to go up to $35,000 the next year. Of course, then COVID hit, and as you can see, the trips went way down during COVID because most of the destinations were closed. But then it started going back up in 2022, and by this year, we ended this year with just shy of 6,500 trips. So it just continues to almost double, another 1,000 trips this year. We're going into this current fiscal year, which we are also July to June, like you are here in Norman, with a $90,000 budget for our program because it has kept growing, and we do expect next fiscal year to have to go looking for more money to continue, either that or to start to reduce the number of trips they can take per week. Right now, they can take 5, but towards the end of this last fiscal year, the last 4 or 5 months, we had to reduce that down to only 3 trips a week were free, simply because we were running out of budget because demand was growing so quickly that we could not keep up with it.
All right, now we're on slide 4, and that's titled Embark Well Norman. So these are just some assumptions we're making on previous conversations, as well as trying to fit some parameters around what a pilot would look like. So similar to what they do in Oklahoma City, we would think this would be weekday 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Age 60 and over. I know we've talked about possibly reducing that down to 50 and older, but that could increase the demand. And then if we don't have enough funding for all that demand, it could increase frustrations for those people trying to use the program. So just something to think about. Like Marilyn said, an application required. It's a 10-minute phone call, basically honor system. And then they do this in Oklahoma City right now, but next day trip reservations, so they can make sure to schedule all that out and know what's going on. And then we would propose within the existing paratransit zone 1, which the map is available online for anybody that wants to see it. It's mainly core Norman. It's 3/4 of a mile outside of a fixed route bus. That's the zone 1 service that we're required to provide for paratransit. Just again, to keep those trip lengths down and try to see what the demand is for the zone 1 service area.
I have kind of a faint memory of like hotspots, like where people, is there a map that kind of tells you like where people with disabilities are traveling in the transit system?
We might have had one with the Go Norman Transit Plan. I think they might have pulled the trip origin destinations for a month or 2 and then put it into a map. So I don't know if that's what you're thinking,
I
but
was just curious if Core Norman really has the concentration of this population that we're discussing.
yeah. Well, we could certainly go city limits, but if
Will
there's
cost more.
multiple people outside of that zone 1 service area, and not saying we don't want to serve them, we're just trying to serve a section. We're trying to serve a portion well, right? We don't want to serve everybody with poor
Yeah.
service. It's just if somebody has to go out to Lake Thunderbird and bring somebody back in for a program, that's going to take them a longer period of time. So it'll decrease the amount of trips we can provide. Is the thought. But certainly something we could talk about. These again are the assumptions that we're going through, and this would be a pilot, so they could be levers we could pull later. So.
I wonder if the Census Bureau maintains that kind of demographics by census tract. Let us do a little digging on that, and we'll see what kind of demographics we can pull.
Yeah, we can look into that for you for sure, but I don't remember a recent map. That's what I was trying to think of when we showed, but And then for the same slide, pilot destinations, we talked about this last time. We tried, or at least in Oklahoma City, you saw the list. It's mainly nonprofits or city-owned facilities. So, of course, the Adult Wellness and Education Facility, the Norman YMCA, we added the Well on James Garner here, as well as the Norman Regional Health Club, because that is also part of the hospital and it's on the west side of town. So it kind of gives a little bit of a swath for facilities to be spread out. Again, this is another lever that can be pulled in different directions. I believe last time we let you know that the parks locations can be turned on and off. If they were going to provide a class for a semester, can you make this available for people on the Embark World program? So we can certainly look at other locations.
The YFAC, are there a lot of seniors or over 60 using the YFAC pool or anything? Do we know?
That's a great question. Do you know, James?
I don't know if we keep that down.
That's one where we could, if we got the pilot going with these 4 locations and we heard demand for that location, we could certainly look at adding it.
That's
I was gonna say, is 12th Street Rec Center, is that mostly kids? Or are there programs for older folks?
There's open gym time, and we do have indoor pickleball available and outdoor. So there's uses up on older population, but a lot of this program for youth there.
Yeah.
And to Taylor's point, we work really closely with Oklahoma City Parks Department and their programming manager. So anytime she was going to be adding senior programming in a specific location, she sends us an email and say, we're adding senior programming. We send somebody over there, they put Embark Well brochures out there, and that becomes a destination during that class. We also do that. Are you familiar with the Lynn Institute in Oklahoma City? They have a group called the Healthy Hopeful Community Collaborative. It's a group of nonprofits that work together on some social challenges. One of the things they do is something called the On the Road to Health program. It's for low-income people to help them buy healthy foods, to teach them how to take care of themselves, cook the food properly. It's a 12-week class, 1 night a week. And so when they do that class, they call us and say, we're going to have this class, and that becomes a destination for well during the class only. So because you're doing it as a pilot, and because we're trying to keep the assumptions small, it gives us the ability to do this and kind of dial it into what the demand is over the time as we look to see what the demand is going to be.
So there might be like surveys as the pilot's going on, like where would you want to go if there's like programming for seniors that they're aware of but not covered in the zone?
Yeah, we have volunteers that when we first started this in Oklahoma City, that's what they did. They would sit down and call the people that were using it. So is there other locations that you wish this facility would go to? Or if people would call to sign up and say, hey, I'd like to go work out at XYZ, we would keep track of how many requests we got for a location that wasn't authorized at the time. So we'd have to do that.
Okay, thank you.
So moving on to slide 5, under further considerations, some of these were touched on, like the max trips per week. Maryland mentioned they do 5 in Oklahoma City. For a pilot, we think we would recommend 3 per week just to see. We want to stretch the budget as much as possible if we were going to move forward with it. But again, a lever that could be pulled one way or another depending on the amount of funding and priorities of council. The cap on participants, we would put it at 100 just as a recommendation. That again could be changed if we get into the service and we're not using as much of the budget. I think we could increase the amount of participants, but obviously we don't want to have too many participants and then have to decrease the amount of trips per week because there's too many people on it, if that makes sense. So and then the type of operator, we talked about this last time where Oklahoma City uses Uber as a government partner to provide the trips for Embark Well. So that could be a possibility. And then Embark OKC plus OKC supplements it with their wheelchair accessible vehicles. So if somebody's on the Embark Well program and they need a wheelchair accessible vehicle, they transport them on their plus vehicles. There is also a contracted operator option if we felt like we couldn't get the demand or the service that we wanted through a TNC, an Uber, or Lyft type service, similar to like a Norman On Demand type of operator. So With that, we ran some numbers, and with 3 trips per week at 100 max participants, assuming we had 100, we would suggest a $75,000 to $100,000 budget just to make sure that we got through the fiscal year and we were able to serve the 3 trips per week at 100 people. That's not saying that this is our best guess, so we want to be able to not come back to council at all possible if we went forward with it and ask for an additional appropriation. We like to make it through the whole first year if we went forward, so.
Is that to get us through the rest of this fiscal year, or would that be an entire calendar fiscal year?
So that would be an entire calendar, 12 months.
Not from here.
And if I can move forward with the last slide, really, number 6 on the next steps, we'd like to finalize parameters of the pilot program. So if we get a sense that this all makes sense, we would look at pursuing grant funding opportunities. There's the Tobacco Settlement Endowment Trust, or TSET funding, that Maryland brought to my attention. They've used to do some pilot programs. So we could pursue that. We have some creative partnerships. Only nonprofits can apply for that funding, but we have a statewide group called the Oklahoma Mobility Institute. That's kind of a branch of our state transit association that will apply for grants on behalf of transit agencies, and we would just form a relationship with that external nonprofit, and they would apply for the funds on our behalf through this if we wanted to move forward with that. And we can talk about that some more if you'd like some more information. And then we would look for next year budget submitted as through the regular budget process and see how it goes with sales tax numbers and where we're looking on existing transit services. So
0.1% transit dedicated sales tax. Hopefully it's growing well for everyone. And I did hear in unrelated conversations that that TSET funding source from the tobacco tax is actually bringing us in cash. So maybe we can even work on them to expand funding for this particular pilot type operation.
And Maryland has been successful with TSET grants in the past, so we would at least take a hard look at that funding.
And Embark in Oklahoma City, we've utilized the Oklahoma Mobility Institute twice. We have 2 different grants from the Arnold Family Foundation that are through OMI.
Yeah, I think the TSET funding source, if we can get it, is great. And I would be interested in hearing more about it as we progress with this. And then for the fiscal year 2027, should we expect like 100K-ish? Or do you feel like the pilot will tell us really?
That's if the grant funding doesn't come to fruition, or even if it does, we would just keep refining our numbers, and then in January when we submit our other budget requests, we would submit that as a budget request, and it would go through as a normal project.
Just recognize
So
council's priorities early on and
we would
build it in.
we would dial it in some more. To your point, we wouldn't put 75 to 100,000. The city manager wouldn't like that
Yeah.
range. So
Flexibility.
we would refine it to a harder number than the 100,000.
As we do these programs, because we've done quite a few programs like this in Oklahoma City where we pilot it for a year to kind of gauge demand while we look for permanent funding if we're doing a grant project, and we are continually dialing it in all the way through the year so that when it comes time for the next round, we're pretty confident in the numbers that we're given.
So, to the TSET opportunity, I think Marilyn, you mentioned that when is the deadline for the one you saw?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Is it September?
I feel like it's the end of September.
So it's pretty quick turnaround. So if that's something we're really interested in, staff will take that and work with the city manager's office and try to, if we need to put some agreements
Fill in all the blanks.
in place with that nonprofit outside group, we'll bring it back to you and see if we can go after it. But
Yeah.
David, go for it. Councilor
I
Ransford.
guess this is more for you with you already, having a program for a year and everything, kind of working through the kinks of it and everything like that. With the cost of the vehicles, gas, upkeep, all that stuff for your employees, all that stuff, how much does your money line show is your cost per ride that it costs y'all?
Last year in Oklahoma City, our cost per ride, it goes up and down every month
of
based
course.
on the mileage, obviously,
Yeah.
of the trips. But the average was between $9.80 and $11.72. Well, that was with Uber. Now, Taylor didn't really mention this, but in Oklahoma City, we've managed to secure funding for a separate fleet of vehicles that we call the mobility fleet. They look very much like paratransit vehicles. They do not have lifts or ramps. They just have steps to get up into the vehicle. So they're only for ambulatory individuals. We use those a lot for our programs with domestic violence shelters, with the child welfare system. We work in diversion programs and things like that. We have gotten some additional funding for those types of vehicles from the Arnold Family Foundation, so we're going to increase the fleet. So over the next couple of years, we will slowly be moving people off of Uber from Embarkwell and putting them onto our own internal vehicles, because to your point, our per cross trip on one of our vehicles is much lower than what it is on an Uber.
No profit motive.
No profit motive, exactly.
But at least for a pilot,
For
3,
a
4,
pilot,
5
we would
years,
have to.
it's great that we have these outside opportunities to test something and not be capital heavy at the end of it. So it's a great opportunity to test something out, so.
Just the only reason I was asking that question and everything is because with those numbers and if you're doing just the math and everything on the max participants, all that stuff like that, if we went with the 75,000, just so everybody's aware and everything like that at the 100 max 3 times a week, all that stuff like that, 15,600 rides a year altogether for the program. We would have to, our $100,000 even would come out to $7 a ride as a cost and everything to cover what we're promising in the thing. So when we're looking at funding already and everything like that, we might have to think a little bit bigger with grants and things like that to give us a buffer there and everything when we're looking at ride per share.
Yeah, that is a low cost. Our fixed route cost per passenger, the last year we figured was about $7.60, and that's with a lot of more passengers and not as much labor and things, so that's a pretty low number, so.
And if you keep it to the Zone 1 area here in Norman, our area in Oklahoma City is much, much bigger, so our
Yeah.
trip lengths are
Of
longer.
course,
So
of
our,
course,
the
most
9 to
definitely.
11, that's why we kind of went down and did, y'all was
Yeah,
looking
you
to be
have a whole
around
lot
7
more
to 9.
mileage.
Yeah, and I think something we correlate to with the budget is our paratransit ridership is relatively high for a city our size. So we want to be aware of that. If we introduce services pseudo paratransit like, we want to be aware that it could be higher than normal in Norman because of the population we have. So cognizant of that.
Councilor Peacock.
Yeah, just on the grant front, I think I mentioned this last time we talked about it, but I can't remember. I would look at AARP as well, because they have a lot of funding available for healthy living,
It
active
is one of the most
lifestyles.
competitive grants on the
I
planet.
had a feeling you were gonna say that. Everybody kind of knows it's the world's best kept secret, or worst kept secret. Well, it just goes back to what you kind of said originally about, the loneliness epidemic and, how negative that's on your health. I've actually read studies that say that, that situation is worse than smoking a pack of cigarettes.
It is, it
So,
truly is.
just whatever we can do to get people out of that and get them back to being active, so.
Councilor Graham.
I had a question about that mobility fleet funding. You said it was our Arnell Family Foundation. And is that just serving OKC, or does that go into?
It's a program specific. It is called the Climb Ride Program. We won a transportation innovation grant from the Arnold Family Foundation. We won $1 million grant. Their charge to us was to create a scalable, replicable transportation program that could be embedded into a wraparound service model to basically take transportation barriers off of the table for, families going through the child welfare system, individuals that are justice involved, things like that. And so we did it in Oklahoma County Child Welfare. It was hugely successful. And then so they came back and gave us another grant for $1.3 million. So we're in the process of replicating that project. But this time we're working with foster kids over at Pivot as they age out to try to stabilize them. Our next hope is to do the same thing with the diversion programs. And yes, we do have plans to expand into other counties, so.
Oh, I was gonna say
So,
Cleveland County might need some
Yes,
help.
we're actually
Yeah,
working on some proposals about county expansion around Oklahoma County.
Like in Barkwell, we have a great example north of other mobility programs that we could look at replicating. And with our fixed route and paratransit service, the fleet we have regulations that we have to provide this service, and that's where Maryland gets into. I'm gonna get this fleet of vehicles over here that can be a little more flexible in what transit programs I provide, right? So
I know hear complaints about the jail not having a bus stop. And people are like, the city's not doing enough to put sidewalk. I was like, I'm not hearing it, but the complaints are out there. And then with the AARP thing, we are pursuing that livable city designation. Does that help in a competitive process?
I will be really honest with you, I have no idea. I have been trying to win an AARP grant since 2016, and I'm a really good grant writer, and I usually win them when I apply for them, and I have yet to be able to crack that nut.
We're early on in that process, but it's my hope in a couple, maybe 3 years, we'll have that. I believe Guthrie might be the only other city in Oklahoma that has that designation. Anyways, just throwing that out there.
I might, I'll have to look. I haven't, I, to be honest with you, I gave up after last year, and I did not apply last year. I will be honest that I threw up my hands and said, okay, enough.
Change the date.
Yes, to that point you made, we've, I think, been advocating to get public transit to the jail in North Norman for several years, since we took over the system, actually.
So I'd just like to say that it's not city council that is keeping that decision from.
It is 100% not the city of Norman who is keeping that from happening, and if other governmental entities in Cleveland County would like to participate, the city of Norman would absolutely participate. But as of this moment, those entities have not come forward and offered that assistance to us, just to be clear.
Yep. Thank you for setting the record straight. And there's been a lot of.
If I may, my final comment will be, there's, similar to that, there's always thoughts and ideas of where transit could go next in Norman. We've talked for a long time, the Southeast Norman route, and things like that. So I just want to put that out there. Similar to Norman On Demand, I think we had the conversation, this is going to take funding opportunity from some other transit priority. So just keeping that in mind of other, you guys hear more than I do of things that want to get done around town in Norman. So we're happy to pursue this opportunity, though. It's definitely a need in our community. I just want to put that out there. And if that's okay, we'll move forward looking at the TSET part, but at the bare minimum, we'll keep this as a conversation and search other funding opportunities if the TSET doesn't work out, and we'll submit it as a budget request for sure, if that's what council desires.
Yes, and I think the Zone 2 conversation about how much that is funded, how much funding it takes to do the Zone 2 paratransit, the part that we're not required to do
Right.
by law.
Yeah.
By covering the entire city limits, we're only required to cover within a mile of fixed route. But we, by choice, cover all 200 square miles. It's very expensive.
So do we. We have 3 zones in Oklahoma City. We cover the whole city limits.
700 square.
So we could maybe
720 square
just
miles.
evaluate that as this, Barkwell is a kind of a complementary, not complimentary, but you're dealing with a population who's older and may have mobility challenges too.
Right.
Maybe they don't quite qualify for paratransit.
Exactly.
Right there. So if those two things are working together
Exactly.
in some way, we're able to work on funding through that way too. But I think any options for funding we can find. Absolutely.
Yep.
Are worth
Yeah,
pursuing.
we'll look for some other things besides the TSET because it is also highly competitive, but I think we have a pretty decent shot with this program, and this particular type of grant that TSET has offered for this is very focused on exactly what Embarkwell does, and so I think we can write a really strong grant application.
Any further comments from council? Clear direction.
I think so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 3 on the agenda is a discussion regarding updates to the bicycle route map. Let's see, we have David here and Bicycle Advisory Board.
Yes.
Here is willing to talk about that with us.
Awesome. Take one and pass them around. I appreciate it.
Volunteer to smoke more, put it in the TSET bucket so we can. Little counterintuitive.
It's like, yeah, spend money to make money. So. Maybe not as.
Well, I will start out by saying that AARP grant, I have applied for it 3 times myself and never got a sniff. And they asked for a boatload of information in your application. It's,
I hate to hear that.
I don't want to do this again, because just for you to tell me no.
I get that.
Yeah. So a little bit about this particular map. The last time we updated the map was when we had our first comprehensive transportation plan back in 2014, so it was in dire need of being updated. As we talk about this, it's going to sound like it took a very long time, because it did take a very long time. The Bicycle Advisory Committee meets one hour a month, and that's not the only topic on their agenda. So we probably had 15, maybe 20 minutes at any given meeting to talk about this particular map. We were working on this during COVID in our Zoom meetings that we were having, and that's how long it took. But essentially what this map shows is all the different bike facilities in Norman. It shows whether there's bike lanes or maybe a multimodal path, or if it's just signed as a bike route, for example. And there were a lot of changes from 2014 to now. There was a lot of construction. We added a lot of bike lanes. We added a lot of multimodal paths. We actually took some bike routes off the system because they were honestly dangerous. And nobody in the bicycling community felt safe riding on some of those routes. So understand that the map that you're looking at, I know that there are people who don't like to hear the term, it's a living, breathing document, but it is. And honestly, the version that you're looking at there has some errors in it. The committee plans to go through it one more time. We thought we were kind of at that point now, but in looking at it, we're not quite at that point yet. So the committee's going to look at it one more time, make the final things, and hopefully print this so that the public can have it and post it to the website. And then ultimately, I think we want to get it on GIS so that it can be more readily available to other people as well.
Councilmember Grant?
And looking at the dotted lines, future route, future path, future lane, is that kind of in alignment with the AIM Norman work that happened and the feedback on where these things should go in the future?
It's probably not so much in line with that. It's more in line with where we know that there are plans to do things. That's probably one thing we need to talk about next month with the committee. Next month with the committee is making sure that some of those things in the AIM Norman plan are shown on, reflected on this map.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it be transportation and trails?
Yes.
We have not had a chance, as David indicated, we've been working on this for a bit of time. And so the AIM came kind of at the end of our process too. So we will incorporate that, and therefore the living document is to try to make everything that does come into cycling and Norman kind of up to date as we move along, not have to do a map every so often.
I know our GIS person isn't here probably, but do we know if the AIM stuff has gotten put on the GIS net yet? All of the most recent?
I'll go on a limb and say maybe not.
Okay. I was gonna say, 'cause
That's
if
a
you're
pretty
able-
large lift.
Absolutely. I'm thinking here you just take the trails piece and just overlay it on this map and make sure there's not any
Yeah.
conflicts more than missed opportunities and conflicts.
Exactly.
And the cycling community is looking forward to all the things that were accomplished under AIM
Absolutely.
and then hopefully reflect that into opportunities, on the ground.
For sure.
And folks probably are anticipating pulling this up. I mean, most bike computers now, you can pull up an active map and use it to plan your routes or trail your routes, things like that.
Well, because I know the trail plan played really well with the parks plan. And so there was a lot of commingling between the two. And so they already identified destinations kind of on the trail plan that I think, obviously there's a lot of crossover.
And then on the backside, there's just basics and things for people who are either familiar with or not as familiar with riding. Some of the things that you need to do and think about.
So our target population was pretty much if you get on a bike. So folks who go out just for a family ride or folks who ride 150 miles a week. Most of the stuff on the back will apply to folks learning to cycle. But the routes on the front kind of reflect everybody's level of capability and maybe give people ideas of where they might want to ride or not want to ride. One benefit, since TSET's already come up, you'll see the TSET logo on that. Excuse me. We have been working with them and they're kind of excited to, when this goes final and goes to print, because the intent is both brochure size, small poster size, large poster sizes. They will be funding the initial print coverage on this. And so that was a pretty good thing to work with them. And so that basically they're kind of anxious and are waiting for us to go do this map. So, or do the brochure, we think of it as a brochure map.
Well, and we've had Norman regional representatives that work with TSET attend Bicycle Advisory Committee meetings for the last two and a half years.
Couple years,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I was just gonna say, to that point, I don't know what I'm about to ask entails, but if you could put this into an app form, so I'm on my phone, I can just say, route me on path.
Most of the apps will pick this if we
Okay.
put it in the right format.
Okay,
And sometimes it's just saving it as certain specific forms.
Right.
Strava, Ride With Me, various and sundry things. We'll just go ahead and just pull that out.
I was gonna say, I'm sure there's already a.
And then
software
you can pull it and then you can use it to either plan or, like I said, record what you've done out there.
Does the bicycle community have a lot of input from the local businesses that support bike rides? Like Lazy Circles is one of the ones that pops right to mind, where they're doing like easy in-town rides, but they'll do longer ones.
Actually, we do. Stephen,
He's on it.
he was on the committee for a while, but family requirements, basically children in the business, he's starting all of those. He was not able to carry on, but no, we stay in contact. I'm fairly plugged in for the cycling community here in Norman. So yes, so
We
both the
did that
clubs, the groups.
Bicycle race too, didn't we?
Yes,
Not too long
that was
ago?
that was a little bit separate, but that was also something that we did support kind of with a knowledge base. So we
This
do,
would be the kind of thing you'd want to get into people's hands that are either doing an event like that.
yes,
or at a
we
business.
had our fingers crossed. It didn't come to fruition to have this available at that time. So we recognize those opportunities. And so both next year, the other thing is Earth Day activities. We used to have the open streets stuff, things like that. So we'll try to push this information out, both electronically and, in paper. The businesses around town, be they the bike shops or the repair shops or whatever, they're all kind of lining up, or we're lining them up to have larger posters and also versions of the brochure that folks can take away. Some folks like to carry paper maps. So trying to make it an opportunity for everybody. So kind of have recognized that we need to, and as other businesses kind of support cycling around, we'll contact them as well.
And I have one suggestion, thinking of technology, Councilmember Peacock mentioned an app. I would say even a QR code to get people, if they're gonna be at the businesses, connected to, centralized information, whatever page that is.
That will be part of the printing process. We decided not to make it part of the map because the map will be ever changing. The QR code will go to the most current version online. And so the intent is to print little stickers, little QR stickers that we can update all the time, print a limited quantity, and then put them on the posters or other places that if people would be willing, put them on a window, people could hit them that way. So kind of thought about that rather than reprinting the map every time because the QR code has to be updated. We decided to do
I was
that.
gonna say, if you make it a permanent landing spot for the QR code, then that one should be like good in perpetuity, you're just updating it on the website, whatever
Right,
you're changing.
and so that's kind of the way we're gonna work. That's the reason the QR code.
I love to
Well,
hear-
and it'll be mostly on the posters. These will also have them. They may end up being printed, but mostly for a lot of people will see the information is to, rather than, because we'll have links on here that they can go to. But yes, so that one's, we're thinking about and kind of excited about to get.
To that point, we got a lot of great artistic bike racks, especially in the core area. I'm not advocating putting stickers on them, but if you were to make magnets,
I mean, you
it'd be
can
a
put
great place to put a magnet with a QR code on the bike racks to take you to the bike trail map.
We have thought about a number of
I'm
those
sure that
things,
you guys have played
and,
it. Yeah, no shortage of
and
ideas.
as you're aware, there's certain restrictions on making those official.
Gotcha.
I'm not going to say this, but there is guerrilla advertising, which means putting a QR code on things like that, so.
Okay, so two things really. Did you say they do or it does not take into account the new bike trails that were part of the Norman Economic Development Coalition thing that they were able to secure funding for? And I don't even know if that's a
Yeah, that kind of,
published route or anything that they're doing, but they got funding for bike trails out by the lake.
as we're updating for AIM, I think we could probably take that into account as well.
And then on Tecumseh between Northwest 24th and Northwest 36th, I know we just finished a little section of the multimodal path there between 24th and Flood. I know there's future plans to replace the interchange at I-35 in Tecumseh, and I would assume we would be advocating for multimodal paths on both sides of that new bridge and interchange whenever that happens, so that blue would probably go all the way across there then too. Okay. And then to clarify our current stance, the way I understand it is, as a city policy, are we moving kind of away from in-street bike lanes and more towards the 10-foot plus multimodal paths where possible?
I'll say in general, yes. There are exceptions, but yeah, in general, yes.
'Cause I think a lot of the feedback I heard maybe for different is in-street bike lanes, if we can have protection between, but just a bike lane on the side of the busy street is not desirable.
Busy, high-volume streets.
So unless we can have a physical barrier or
Mm-hmm.
some kind of divider between the separated 10 to 12-foot multimodal path is more desirable.
I'd rather see the dollars put towards that than any more green paint.
I think we for sure aren't doing the green paints anymore.
Pretty much killed the green paint.
Yeah. We discovered
same
that
page
it's
there.
way too expensive and it
And
wasn't
that was actually
particularly
really
durable either.
a straightforward decision because the city was having trouble with it, people doing the construction was having trouble with it. And the
It's very
site,
specialized. There aren't many
And
people
then-
that can even
to
install.
be honest, the cyclists did not like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it did give you a visual, but it also created other additional problems for the
Collected debris.
cyclists.
Yeah, so rest assured, as it wears off, it will not be replaced.
That's what I like to hear. So,
We had talked about maybe just doing it at intersections
Yeah.
or a colored pavement of some kind
Right.
where the bike lanes go into an intersection and transition. But,
I think it's fair.
okay. Any other comments or questions from council about the bike stuff?
Good work.
Okay, and I was at ACOG earlier and they talked a lot about how their stuff really favors, like 75% of the funding went to sidewalk and bike projects. They're gonna change that so that it doesn't all go to just one thing anymore, but that they wanted to make sure funding was going to all projects. But they said they were really favoring that and they were gonna continue favoring bicycle and sidewalk projects in the metro area.
In every ACOG meeting that I attend, they want a copy of this map too.
Yeah. Dave and I are both on the active transportation
Oh,
committee for ACOG, so we both hear and support it and try to get the information that they request.
I know Maps, I think it was Maps 3 maybe, had I think 500 miles of bike trails and sidewalks in it. You know, so as people are talking about Northern Forward 2 and it being more of a ecotourism, parks, outdoor package, I mean, I think this absolutely fits in that bucket. So I'd support that, whoever's listening.
It's already done.
All right, any comments, questions, finally?
No, thanks for all the work.
Yes, thank you very much. Please let, share thanks to everybody on the committee too for the work that was.
And we're back up to full committee after the two new folks, so we're good.
Nice.
Okay. Well, keep us posted on how this evolves. Okay, anything else? Any final comments from council? Okay, thank you all. This meeting is adjourned.
It's done again.
Before bike. There's a nonprofit in Oklahoma City called Hike and Go Bike. And they basically, all they do is community bike rides.